Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our committee meeting of the whole. Call to order, please. And Linda, record of attendance. And are there any conflicts of interest? Anybody wanting to declare at this point, or perhaps sometime later? At this point, hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Are there any additions and or deletions? Does anybody wish? I see Madeline over there with the light on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to, through you to the CAO, ask him to direct us with regards to under 7A, if that is still on the agenda today. Yes. Is it still on the agenda?
Mr. Chair, the motion was referred from the last council meeting, so I think it properly is on the agenda. How you deal with it, I know there's new information since the council meeting that you may want to take into consideration as you consider that motion, but it properly should remain on the agenda.
Thank you, Madeline. Anybody else with any changes or additions or deletions? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve of today's agenda. We have so the seconder would be Phil and the mover would be Sandy. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. As we proceed through the agenda, it's Jeff's turn with his report. Jeff.
Thank you. I placed my report on your desk this afternoon. I apologize for not getting that out ahead of time. And it may not be entirely up to date on some of the items, as I was away yesterday and didn't get a chance to review every detail. But if you have any questions related to any of the initiatives referred from council, more than happy to answer now or at any point in the future.
So anybody have any questions or comments? Take an extra second to look at the report just in case, but you all know that you can call Jeff anytime to ask a question or have a conversation. Hearing none, we'll move on to C on the agenda, Planning Department report. Sometimes I have my own agenda. It's not normal always to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes you go 1, 4, 3. Fire department report. My apologies, everybody. Again, if you have any questions or comments of the report, and I know you can speak with John anytime. Jeff?
John, or Chief, could you speak briefly about your recent recruitment efforts and number of new recruits you have in the training?
Yes, we did our yearly recruitment, and now we've got another course started. The makeup of the course is a bit different. It's going to be done in more of a modular way for the new members, so there's more flexibility for the volunteers to do it at night. Also, we ended up with around 11 or 12 members, new recruits, that are coming from 3 different departments, and probably 6 of them are ours, but we're expecting more. We wanted to leave it open like that to recruit throughout the year instead of just doing it at one time each year. So it's looking pretty good again, and we're happy with it. So, any questions?
Go ahead, Danny.
We're going to, I don't think now's the time to ask about the pumper rescue tender. that's coming up later, so I'll ask my questions then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So again, if people have any questions or comments about the report, John will make himself available to at your pleasure. Now we'll do the planning department report. Hi, Caroline. I just want to, I was just making a comment earlier to Jeff. I remember starting out with the current council 3 years ago, more or less, and I look at the change in activity of our planning department today compared to 3 years ago, and there's wonderful reports, and I know there's wonderful activity going on upstairs. So thank you, Caroline. And anybody have any questions? It takes about 5 hours to read a report every. I'm just teasing you guys. I'm just looking for some comments, maybe. And Caroline, if anything stands out, if you want to make a mention.
I'd like to talk about the additional item about the podcast.
All right.
But if there's questions about the rest of the report, I can take them first.
Phil might have a.
Yeah, I was just wondering what's going on with Modern Realty?
That's. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's. And I.
So they've been served a ticket. Maybe I'm just I'm looking at the solicitor because it might be better if he answers the question from here.
I haven't received any notice that they intend to plead not guilty. I don't know right now what the date was up. The
It was
deadline.
October 2nd.
They have till October 2nd to file a notice that they intend to plead not guilty, and nothing's been received as of yet.
Phil.
So they can stay there until all the court stuff's all done?
Well, the town has its enforcement policy, and the first step is to prosecute them, which is in the process now. So, depending upon what happens, the town will take the next step, but that is the first step in the enforcement process.
So thank you, and as you've heard, it's in the works. Any other comments or question on the first part of Caroline's report? Hi, Ken.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Just a quick, I know I had my light on before you said the first part of the report, so I don't know, what are we doing it page by page, or should I wait for this question because it's later on? Yes. No, but looking at her report, but you said, oh, so we can discuss the whole report in full. Just wanted to know to the planner, what is the status, or can you give us an update, or maybe this should be more for Natalie or whoever, on the Department of Health and Nova Scotia Housing Project for the 200-plus homes that are going to be redone. I understand there was a meeting last night. I couldn't attend because of health issues, but is that deadline been extended? Like, I understand the work had to be completed by October 31st.
No,
that's not the case?
There's a date in November that all the applications have to be submitted by.
Yes.
And they're saying once you get your application in and it's approved, that because there's weather concerns, that they'll allow that work to happen in the spring.
Perfect. That's perfect
but
news.
you want to get your application in now, because if it hasn't
Okay.
gotten in and been approved, then you won't have that opportunity in the spring.
Was there a fairly good turnout at that meeting last night?
I didn't make it. I had a slight emergency at home, but Madeline and Sandy were both there, so they should be able to
Good,
answer
so it
your
was a good
question.
attendance? Good.
There was roughly at least 30 people,
Perfect,
residents, and
perfect.
then there were Thank you, Mr. Chair. There were at least a minimum of 30 residents. There were more that came in. They trickled in afterwards. There were also contractors that attended the evening. It was very, very well presented. It was also very well received. Housing Nova Scotia itself was pleased with the turnout. And Councillor Dennis can confirm, were there roughly about 4 new applications? 4 or 5. I think at least 5 new applications that were picked up that evening.
Perfect.
and a list of, a short list of contractors that are interested in, that have shown interest in working with the residents on this project. They were all listed there for the residents to write down. So it was very, very well presented, very well received. A lot of apprehension was also dampened, and I think you're going to see more activity than up until now.
And just as a supplementary, because this question has been asked, some of the residents in the area, and Councillor Dawes did bring up contractors, aren't aware of what contractors are available or contractors that are there. Is there going to be an opportunity for contractors, other than the ones that attended last evening, to maybe get on a list for that the residents? I'm not saying that we're going to vet them, but I'm suggesting just an overall list that people could have of all available contractors, painters in Yarmouth Town and County who are available, because if you're going to have 200 homes done at once, you're going to need a lot of contractors, and that's the question.
So Housing Nova Scotia isn't recommending particular contractors. What they're saying is not to use the word contractor, because it's up to the homeowner to hire someone that they feel is capable of doing the work. So that doesn't have to be someone who's licensed or has a company. It could be their neighbor who's they feel could do the painting or that kind of thing. Does that answers your question? We're not, no, and it's up to the contractors really to promote themselves. They know the area, it's been widely advertised. If they want to go door to door and offer their services to these homes, then that's entirely up to them to do that. I just wanted to say I did have a meeting with Housing Nova Scotia yesterday morning, and they said they'd received about 9 applications, and they've already started approving applications. We went door to door last week, letting property owners in the area know about the meeting that happened last night. And while we were out, we were actually delivering approval letters to homeowners who have already applied to the program. So it's happening quick. You just have to contact Housing Nova Scotia. Yeah.
Thank you, Ken and Caroline. Madeline.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add that was brought up, a contractor list yesterday evening. And the representatives from Housing Nova Scotia that were there, they did reiterate, made it very clear to everyone there that it was a housing initiative and not a town initiative, and that they were dealing with the contractors, and it was up to the contractors to identify themselves, whoever was interested in working with them. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. At this point, Caroline, if you want to talk about the PAC podcast outline.
Sure. So the Planning Advisory Committee at their second last meeting made a motion that they would like to investigate the idea of doing a podcast as a committee. And I guess maybe I should explain what a podcast is first, just for those who don't know. So it's an audio recording, usually about a specific topic, and they happen on a regular basis, and that people can download straight to, their phones or their music listening devices. And they're basically little episodes or shows about a specific topic, and anybody can do them. So the Planning Advisory Committee is interested in doing one where they meet monthly. Just a small portion of the committee, not all the members. Whoever's interested that month in doing it can come along. And it's just to kind of ask questions. Before the episode, they'll send me questions, and we'll set up a theme. And it's all planning related, a way for them to learn and understand about planning in a more comfortable setting than perhaps a Planning Advisory Committee member. And one of the benefits of this podcast format, where we're going to be recording the audio and able to distribute it on a regular basis, is that not only does the Planning Advisory Committee get this opportunity in an informal setting to talk through and learn about planning, they can share that with the public, so the public can learn along with them and get to know them and understand. So it's a public participation opportunity as well as a learning opportunity for the Planning Advisory Committee. So I just kind of put together a concept idea and how we thought we might want to do it, and that's what's before you today. So I'm just looking to hear what council thinks about this idea, if you support it.
Jim Harrow.
I see you there, Phil. You're lit.
Thanks, Caroline. Great idea, and I think you're planning on doing this once a month, they said?
Yeah, well, we have the first episode scheduled. The concept behind it was going to be planning advisory committees. Who does that is what they'll be talking about. And we just kind of were going to record it, see what it sounds like, see what council and the PAC thinks about it, and if everybody likes kind of that product, then we ultimately would like to do this more on a regular basis.
I think it's a great idea because you have opportunity to discuss with people sitting around the table at the PAC. I think it's almost situational. You could talk about, the one we talked about here a couple of minutes ago about modern realty, what effect that decision has on planning, and how you build a community, how you where you put institutional, commercial, residential, how that works. And I think it's going to be a great learning tool for the residents. And congratulations, I think it's really, really good. And I think the more that you get yourself out there in the public domain and explain what your role is as a planner and at the PAC, that it's going to be a great educational tool.
Thanks, Phil. Madeline?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That and everything that Councillor Mooney just said, and also the fact that Yarmouth would be the first in Nova Scotia to introduce this podcast.
I don't know about any other planning advisory committees that produce podcasts, so we might be the first in general. I'm hesitant to say that, but there's some planning podcasts out there that planners put on, but not one that's specifically from the perspective of a committee that's learning. Yeah.
So Caroline must ask, your goal with this item is to have us approve so you can begin the process?
Yes, please.
A motion.
Okay, Madeline made a motion and to approve of the procedure to develop the podcast concept for the PAC. Second. Seconded by Phil. Are you okay with that at this point, Caroline? Question on the motion being called. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you very much, Caroline.
I forgot to mention, just because this is cute, the Planning Advisory Committee would like to call it Planning on the Edge.
All right. Next item is operational services. Engineers report. Dave?
My report is included in your package. If you have any questions, I can answer those for you.
Phil?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Dave, we have that new piece of equipment that's going to be working down on Water Street for snow removal. I had a question from two business owners, one on Monday and one actually just before I came here, about is there an opportunity for that piece of equipment to work on some of the side streets in the central business district? Or does that all come down to money and hours?
We did actually use it a little bit last winter on some of the narrower sidewalks in the central area of town.
I think the one that business person was on John Street, and I know Jim can attest to this, that John Street, I don't know, just the way the wind blows, is one of the worst streets, and I think it's one of the narrowest sidewalks in that area too. But I'm just wondering if we, and we started it last year, and maybe I see Councillor Langell has his light on, maybe inform some of the business owners in the central business district on what they can expect from the town of Yarmouth for snow removal. That's because I know some are making plans to do different things. I know we started last year doing the main the main sidewalk itself on Main Street. So if we clear off that, what do people have to hire out? Do they have to hire out, I know they're going to have to hire to clear out the doorways, but that might be something we can think of before the
Thank you, Phil. And, the red lights are flashing. I think, Danny, you're next.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Water Street with the plow. Have you done or anybody's done a survey on the sidewalks themselves, like walking? Now, I know that this plow has a blade on it, I would take it, right? That either a V-shaped or just straight across?
Yeah, it's a straight blade.
It's a what, sling blade?
Straight blade.
Straight blade.
Yeah.
Anyway, have you walked on Water Street lately?
I haven't.
On the sidewalk, that is.
I haven't personally.
Okay. Well, perhaps, maybe if you ever have the opportunity before the snow flies, you probably should, or some of your staff should. And the reason why is where the protective cement around the trees, it's lifted up 2 and 3 inches on some of them, right? And I would think, I don't know, you probably agree that the blade would probably hit one of those and either do damage or do harm to whoever's driving it, or, or break something, right? So is there a way perhaps to look at them and maybe even put an angle of cement or something just for the winter, for this winter, so that you could avoid that?
I'll have our sidewalk guy that he's looking after all the replacement for trippers and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'll mention that to him. I'm sure he already identified those areas that are a problem.
Yeah.
I know there's some that actually are low as well that hold water. So
yeah, but these here, I mean, the last they're just in. They've been there a while, but I think they're getting worse right there. It's because of the weather heaving up and down, and these. There's probably a half a dozen of them, but even one I would say is probably dangerous. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that's all. Great, thank you.
Madeline, we'll come back, Danny. Madeline?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Everything on this list is exciting, but especially the wastewater treatment plant outfall that's being taken care of, and just roughly, what time is that going to be finished?
well, the farther we get out, the more effect that the tides have on the ability to do work. So it's taken a little bit longer to complete it than we anticipated. We have to wait for extremely low tides to be able to work. But,
winter, end of winter, spring?
Oh, it's going to be done this fall.
All right. All right. Thank you. And number 7, Jarvis Road. You have a consultant that's designing a drainage system for a major storm, a 1 in 100-year storm. That's very exciting. Very exciting. And for everyone involved. That's the residents and us here too. We're just as involved. And is that a 6-month, a 1-year project roughly? Because inquiring minds are going to ask.
Hopefully we can do it this fall before the snow flies.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Madeline. The next line is, Sandy, please, sorry.
One thing that I have would like to know is, will we have a plan in place this year for the sidewalks on entering the crosswalks? Because that's always an issue every year with the snow banks for people trying to get across the street.
That's something that's always difficult to get cleared out when you got the plows going and the sidewalk plow going and kind of conflicting with each other. And a lot of the times we will get it shoveled out by hand. That normally gets done after everything's plowed out, and so we'll try to be a little more timely with it.
Okay, thank you.
I got 2 lights, maybe Danny, Kenny, whoever wants to go.
Just one more quick question, thank you. One more quick question for you. Up at the Milton where you've got it marked off, is there a date for that to start or finish, or is it this year, next year, or?
Now, it's this year, I'm just waiting on Chad to get it organized to be able to
Okay.
do it.
Okay. Is there a tree coming down?
Yeah. There's
One?
one tree in the road there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy. Ken?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The RCMP building, what's the status? When will that be finished?
They have to go in there and do some of their own work with security people. We're completing deficiencies now, but that shouldn't take that terrible amount of time to do. But they have their own people that have to come in and do their own thing. So they take possession October the 1st.
The second point, Councillor Mooney raised it as well. Can we get a report or recommendations or your thoughts at the next committee of the whole meeting in October regarding snow removal in the downtown? I think we really have to let the business owners know exactly what our plans are. I know Councillor Mooney's made it up, but we kind of skirted around. We didn't get any commitment. I think we as a town should tell the merchants what they can anticipate during the winter so that they can start making plans, because that is a concern, because last year it was kind of hit and miss. We didn't quite do it all the time. Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't. And it put the merchants in a bad position because they didn't know whether this is going to be a regular thing or not. And I really think we have to do that. And secondly, I would really, further to what Councillor Mooney pointed out, we really have got to look at some of the side streets where there is businesses. If we are going to do it for Maine, it would be nice just to do a sweep down there. More notably, I'm terrible on street names, is the street going down to not Lovett Plaza, but to Pier whatever it's called, Pier 1, that street there. Jenkins Street, yeah, that's a real issue because there was a huge amount of snow build up there last winter, and it was dangerous in some cases for people trying to get into, for example, the Chamber of Commerce, into that building there at Lovett Plaza. So it'd be nice if we could do that. So Dave, could you really take a look at that and see if what you can do, what is reasonable within? Also was brought up Water Street by Councillor McIsaac. We talked about that last year. We didn't do anything last year on Water Street, and Council did request that we do something on Water Street. It would be nice if we could look at that as well. I mean, if we have to contract out, I hate that word, but if we have to contract out somebody to help with the removal of the snow, because speculation, Deputy Mayor, is going to be that we're going to have a rough winter this year, they're telling us, is what they're forecasting, and I really would like to see that snow removal in. So I don't expect an answer from Dave today, but maybe if he could look at it with the staff and come back to us. You know, he may say, well, we don't have the plant in place to do this, but maybe we should do X, Y, or Z, and fine, if we have to do X, Y, or Z, let's do X, Y, or Z, because it's something, a service that we need. These property owners pay significant taxes, and we're trying to get our downtown revitalized, and the last thing we want is to shut it down every so often because of snow issues.
Thank you, Ken. Jeff.
So Dave can create the plan, and I think a motion to request that plan would be appropriate. But he does have some constraints that he has to work with, and one of the constraints is the budget. Right? So we establish a budget. He has equipment resources, and we added to that last year. Unfortunately, with the snow load on Water Street, we would have buried that little machine, and that was the problem with getting that done last year, was the unusual amount of snow. Now, if we get that again this year, you know, people can expect some inconvenience and some delays in getting things cleared the way we'd like to have them. The real issue, and the thing that David can deal with, is priority. So he has a number of people. He has the constraints of Department of Transportation limits of how many hours drivers can drive, which we never used to have before a few years ago. Has to manage within that, manage within the budget. And sometimes we do go over budget on snow removal, and we expect that, and we understand that, but we don't hire additional staff for that purpose, for snow removal. So work with our available resources. He can review priorities, and as he said, he did some things downtown in the last couple of years, and I think Council's been satisfied, pleased at least to see that initiative, and maybe he can respond with how much more he'll be able to do once he has a look at it with the supervisors.
Ken.
I'd like to make a motion, Your Worship, or Your Deputy Worship, that staff be directed to prepare a plan for snow removal in the commercial areas of the downtown, including main side streets and Water Street.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Question.
Question on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Your light's still on, Ken?
Yeah, I have a second question. The other question I was looking at, Dave, was a concern Sandy brought it up as well, the concern about the corners and intersections especially. This was a huge issue last year for winter. Could you put that also in there, especially for people who were handicapped? There was a huge issue for individuals getting in and out around those corners. So it may be something that you can look at as well as part of that plan. And I had one other thing, but it escaped me totally, so I'll leave it at this point.
Thanks. Madeline, your light's flashing.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My senior moment was I didn't jump up and say, I still have a question as with regards to just the last motion. Whether it's too late or not, I'm still going to ask to be able to ask our chief there. Does that make sense to you? Is it going to be easy for you, Dave, to make this plan for snow removal?
No, it's not going to be easy, and with limited staff and so on and so forth. I mean, I got to figure out what level of service we can maintain with our staffing levels and equipment that we have, so.
And I think
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
And I think it's more a matter of communication than anything else, is let the merchants know what we're willing to provide or what we can provide under, financial constraints, and pass those concerns on or pass those instructions on to the building owners or the persons that are responsible, the tenants that are responsible for the snow removal. So if we find that we're not doing, like Sandy brought up a great point about the corners, right? That's who's responsible. Somebody said, well, it's the town responsible, it's the landlord, it's the tenant. Maybe this is what we provide, Dave, and this is what the landlord or the tenant is responsible for, and just make sure that the people in the central business district or even beyond have that information in front of them, almost like passing out at Waste Check, passing out your chart for the year. So it's just, I think, more of a communications piece than anything else.
Thank you very much, everybody. Let's one last moment.
Mr. Madeline, I remembered. I don't know whether David falls under your bailiwick or it may be the fire chief. One thing I did notice last year that did come to my attention is some of the businesses in town still have exit doors that exit out rather than in. And as a result, there were several areas or businesses, I understand, that had emergency exits literally blocked by snow that you could not get out. Is there any hope that maybe the inspector, appropriate, be it fire or whatever, take a look, just do a quick random walk through the downtown and through Water Street? Because I can think of a couple of buildings offhand where they have exit doors going out. They're the older buildings, and that poses a huge danger. I was literally in one where a power interruption came in and the exit door was opening out and we couldn't get out because there was a big snowbank and the door was a business on Water Street and you couldn't get out of the building because of the snowfall. So just a little sidebar. Maybe that's something we should be checking and advising, because I think building code right now requires those doors to be opening in, if I'm not mistaken, rather than out, or I may be wrong.
Yeah, it depends on what the door goes into, what type of occupancy and where it's at. Our fire inspector has a capacity to look at, if he sees something on his rounds or anything when he's doing inspections of buildings, he can go over and ask them to do that. But to specifically go out for the purpose of looking for that, I don't know if he'd have that capacity right now. I'd have to chat with him about it. So I can chat with him about it, and if he does notice anything like that, he can take action. Yeah, just like any other official can, actually. So.
Madeline, you're the last one on this item.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I don't think it's going to take very long. I'm only going to ask for clarification. Councillor Mooney brought up some very, very good points, and I need some clarification, please, on how how the points that he made up and everyone agreed will affect the motion that was made. And I think also Mr. Ernst, I don't know, say yes, you'd like some clarification on that, please. Because I don't know where we stand with this now. How does it affect you? How does it affect planning? And how feasible is it? Thank you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said. I don't understand it. I'm asking for clarification.
Most of the asset come with a recommendation of remove snow in the downtown. That's the recommendation.
Let's see what Dave comes up with for the next committee of the whole meeting. Sandy, did you want to say something? Thank you very much. Finance Department report. Jerry? Thank you very much, Dave.
Just a quick update on what's happening in the department. You may or may not know that the tax sale process has started, so 14-day notices did go out to people that are behind on their tax payments. In the last couple of weeks, we've probably had 6 or 7 actually come in and pay in full, which they'd have to do, so we've collected both years of taxes that were outstanding. And we've also had 5 or 6 come in and set up actually tax payment arrangements. So that's helping out more people as well. In the next couple of days, the 60-day notices will go out, which starts the next step, which we'll be advertising in the papers in November. And the tax sale date right now, we're hoping for, I think it's December 5th, right in there, right around there. The auditors are back in their own office now, putting together the final numbers and final checks and balances. Waiting for draft consolidated statements. Based on those statements, I have to get a report into the province by the end of the month, so the auditors are well aware of that, and we still expect to meet that deadline. And then, as far as our current year goes, we continue to catch up. It's a little bit of a slow process, but we expect to do a lot here in early October. Staff members coming back off maternity leave, and I'll still have her replacement here for about 6 to 8 more weeks. So I'll have about 8 weeks with 2 staff members. So in that 8 weeks, we plan on bringing Sybil, who's been off for 9 months, up to speed with the new system, and also that'll let us catch up on some of the things that we're behind on. So that's kind of where we are.
Any comments or questions of Jerry? Don't see any red lights flashing here. So, thank you very much. Recreation report. I know that Frank Grant isn't here, so we'll probably skip over that. There's always information on the recreation website. Frank probably sends out more emails than anyone else I know. Next up is Economic Development and Natalie Smith. Hi, Natalie.
Hello,
Hi.
Your Deputy Worship.
So you've, as I mentioned earlier, when the planning advisory was introduced, there's lots of information there. And I see one red light flashing. Ken.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The fast fact sheet, I just was glancing over it. And again, people say that I'm negative at times, and I don't mean to be, and I apologize for this, but if I'm a developer or somebody coming to the town of Yarmouth, under development activity, it would really be a concern to me that in 2009 we had $24 million in change in building permits, and then suddenly the next year it drops to $3,795,000. Do we really have to show that 2009 figure? Because you're raising a question. To me, you see nice growth from 3 to 5, down to 4, 4, and 5. It's consistent. But obviously, we had an anomaly in 2009 of $24 million in development permits, and as a developer, I'd be asking a question: what happened that suddenly your development in the town of Yarmouth dropped by $21 million in 1 year? Or, if vice versa, maybe show 2008, which I assume would probably be only $3 or $4 million, to show that that anomaly exists. Because by looking at that number, I don't know, I kind of question that. You know, maybe go back to 2008 before, or just get rid of it totally. I'm assuming it's something, but it's could be the Justice Center, could be the Meadows, who knows what.
But that's in actual fact what happened, and that's what we're showing. That's what I think we have to show. Any comment, Natalie?
Well, generally the developers that I've been dealing with, I normally give them the much larger package, and they've already scanned our community prior to that, so a lot of this data is actually available publicly. I do agree with you, Councillor Landell, that this does sort of raise a little bit of a bell, but part of it is that for them to contact us because they see us as an advantageous location. So yeah, at your direction, I can change that. Generally, you're looking back 5 years. In this case, it was 6 years. This is our September version of it. There's one version more to go before we kind of stabilize it, and that would be to have some more information with regards to real estate and also to do with occupancy, total available industrial space, commercial space. I'll be working with the Western Ren researcher to help me pull that together. So the intention of this fast fact sheet is that, yes, we have this great 65-page document, but for the average person within our community to get to know what is currently here, for them to rethink or think about their business and how they're purchasing or displaying or who their customers are. It's just a little bit of a teaser, and I hope that they would then contact me because we have a wealth of information behind that.
I would say if you're going to leave it in, I think there should be an asterisk with a sub-bar that explains why.
I would agree. I will
Or else
definitely adjust
because
that.
normally in business, and I hear we've got the gurus of Ren who are the economic wizards, but usually it's 5 years is the norm for programs along this line. So we normally don't see a 6. So that's why I was saying that it's a flag, and it's a beautiful document. I think it's well done professionally, but I hate to see any positive document show a negative flag because you don't want to arise any concerns that show that there's some issues there. Thank you.
I will make that adjustment.
Thanks, Ken and Natalie. Any more comments or thoughts on Natalie's information? And like I say to all the councillors, you can always call the operational heads. Ken, one more comment?
Yeah, my favorite, the Facade Society. I'm looking at the numbers here again, the Facade Incentive Program. So we've only dispersed $46,000 and change out of $153,000 in projects. Now, just a question to Natalie or to Jeff. We're now into September. We have only 1 month left. Tick-tock. What happens if some of these applicants that have been approved are unable to complete? Can we roll that money in the next fiscal year? Is that the intent here? Or is there a deadline that these people have got to have their projects finished?
Jeff?
I'll ask Natalie about the deadline question, but as far as the town's money goes, yes, we can roll the money in the town. All the money has not been dispersed to the society. It's based on their cash flow needs, so she can answer the question as far as the deadline goes.
So as per our last committee of the whole meeting, we had discussed that as long as the applicants provide us with their application, and it is approved by October 31st, there will be an extension to the completion of their projects. So we're really on a push to get the applications in. I've been working with businesses directly, and so have the rest of the society. And so the actual dollars that have gone out in checks is only about $14,009. But I always like to show in the column what we're building up to. So I'm hoping that that we get the rest of those 12 applications in. One of them you'll love to hear is the Met Building. Ken has been approved, so the front facade of that will be done very tastefully. So that's going to really make a nice impression. And if you've had a chance to walk from Forest Street back towards town, you'll see the work, the restoration work that's being done at the old U.S. Embassy building. That's really going to set that end of the main street. We're going to have some great pictures from that side as well.
Thank you very much, Natalie. The facade program is outstanding, actually. Main Street looks much better.
Great. I just wanted to make a comment, something I'd mentioned in the report, 2 comments. In the last 2 months, I have received, I guess, a lot more inquiries than normally we've received in the past for businesses and people looking to relocate to the area of Yarmouth, and specifically to the town of Yarmouth. And what's so interesting about the last 6 weeks, more so than previously, because we've had inquiries within the region, within the province, is where they're coming from. And I made a note of those, that they're coming from Western Europe, they're coming from Asia, they're coming from Australia, they're coming from the US. So a lot of those references are coming from people that are living here, that they want relatives to relocate here, or people that have second homes and think, you know, it's time that I would like to move here permanently and start a business. So they're looking at what they're doing in their home location and how can I reapply it to this location here. So we've been assisting them with regards to connecting them with immigration, connecting them with our Chamber of Commerce. As a matter of fact, the Chamber of Commerce, Matthew, has been exceptional, because as he gets those leads, he passes those to me. As I get leads, I pass it to him. So I think the output of that was the great networking event that just happened this week. I know we had some really attractive counselors there. You guys took really nice pictures. But we had over 80 people attending, and I think that really applauds that the community wants to work together. They see that working together benefits everyone, and they're spreading the word. So thanks to all of you for letting us do that.
Thank you. I missed that wonderful event. just that we forgot.
We have pictures we can share.
Thank you. All right. Any more questions? If not, we'll move on. Thank you very much, Natalie. Now we have a presentation from Ren and Angelique. Angelique LeBlanc, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity to provide you with an update on the Western Regional Enterprise Network. So I do have a presentation prepared for you that I believe you received beforehand. So what I wanted to do was provide you of pretty much an update as to where we are today, and also look ahead to where it is that we want to be going. So I wanted to start off with just underlining the REN boundaries, just as a quick refresher. We are in the REN 1 region, and just to give you a reminder of the timelines, the board of directors was formed in February 2014. So Alistair Sudat is our board chair, and we do have 2 board members here today. We have Ron Smith and Warner Camo. And the board is made up of private sector individuals, or who work closely with individuals who work closely with private sector, so 9 board members. And the intermunicipal agreement, as you remember, was signed in May 2014, and I was hired on in August 2014. So comparatively to all other RENs, we would be the REN who was the first to be operational within the province. And just to give you a quick update as to where the other RENs are at, the Valley REN is also operational. They do have a CEO, and the South Shore REN is in the process currently of recruiting for a CEO. So the other RENs throughout the province are at various levels. Cape Breton REN, the money has been divided between 2 different organizations to form one REN that's shared between Business Cape Breton and the Cape Breton Partnership. And in REN 5, the Eastern Strait REN, the board is currently being recruited. And then REN 4, that's where the focus is right now on behalf of municipal affairs to actually get that the REN going in that region. And the common mandate to all RENs are, the vision is First Nations, municipal and provincial governments and businesses working together with a regional focus. So really bringing together all the regional resources that we do have, and the mandate to guide and navigate regional economic development while providing support to business. So what is it that we do? Our areas of focus. We're there to support, of course, a healthy business climate for growth, to stimulate wealth creation. So we act as a hub to share information on a regional level, and also we are connected with resources with the other RENs and government departments provincially, and also a federal connection. So we're there to share that information with the region. We are also a navigator for business. We have the BRE visitation program that I will speak in greater detail to in just a few minutes. A connector between government and private sectors, and we do that through our BRE program. We have a labor workforce committee, and also we work very closely with Nova Scotia Business Inc. So NSBI, more and more, they have a rural focus, and that perhaps wasn't there to this level before. So we are working very closely with NSBI, and we're an advocate as well for a healthy business climate. So we want to really set up an issue-driven, private sector-led environment. Our core activities, and these you will recognize as well because these are what were mandated by the intermunicipal agreement that you all signed. So firstly, to implement and monitor a regional economic development strategy, and we have that strategy complete, and we will be launching that at our AGM next week, September 29th, and the AGM is going to be at the Digby Pines, and you will all be receiving an invitation very shortly. And we are meant to develop close relationships with business community to retain and expand business and attract new ones. And again, our BRE visitation, which is currently underway, and our BRE program, Business Retention and Expansion, we also have some of the municipal EDOs. As you know, Natalie Smith, your EDO, is BRE certified, and we also have another EDO in the municipality of Yarmouth who is. So we work very closely with them on those programs. And to connect strategic assets with ongoing and new investors. Just by ways of an example, we are looking at both reestablishing passenger service at the Yarmouth Airport, and we are looking at the cargo file as well. And then lastly, to inform partners and stakeholders about local business climate, including regional challenges and opportunity. So to make sure that as a region that the decisions that we are making are based on solid information. So I'm going to share, I'll give you a sneak peek, pre-launch of our strategic plan, what our strategic themes are. We have the business retention and expansion, investment readiness, and innovative partnerships and communication. So I'm going to go over the definition of each one and point out some of the actions that we've identified for the first of our 3-year plan. Business Retention and Expansion Program, the BRE program, and that's a program that you will most likely recall that the former RDAs ran as well, the BRE program. It was very successful, and when they did the RDA model review, it was identified as something that was really key to continue doing because of the impact of the work. So this is really a big part of the work that we do, and it's a business visitation program meant to understand and focus on regional business and industry's needs, issues, and opportunities. So what we do is we're coordinating that visitation program with the municipal EDOs, as I mentioned, and just concretely to give you an idea of how that coordination is structured, in the town of Yarmouth, Gilles Babin, who is our BRE Economic Development Officer, and coordinator. He covers seafood industry, tech, airport, manufacturing, and Natalie Smith, your EDO, covers retail and development, big box stores, and landlords. So that gives you a really good coverage in terms of the BRE program. So we coordinate the visitation program, connect businesses with support, and what we do with the information that we receive is we have a database. So we put that information into the database, and then once we have that aggregate data, we can begin to see some trends within business and different industries. So that's an example of how we collect some of the information that then we can then stand on and address some of those issues. And prioritizing visitations. Currently, we've done over 25 BRE visits with companies employing a total of over 950 people throughout the region. We've done 20 referrals already, and those include referrals for new investment and new export opportunities. So the referrals are going to change depending on the client. Sometimes we'll refer them out to our government partners. Sometimes it will be to a financial institution. It depends on the case. Our next strategic priority is the investment readiness. So the key here is really working at the speed of business. So being prepared for and responding to investment inquiries effectively, efficiently, and realistically. So knowing what we have in terms of assets in the region, and knowing how to communicate what those assets are as well. And that's where, again, we work very closely with NSBI. They really do play the role of investment attraction. They're the flash side of it to encourage or pique the interest of the investors, but we're working on the ground to make sure that we're ready to communicate the information to NSBI potential investors, but also to businesses within the region who may be interested in expansion, so that will help them make their decisions as well. So to give you some concrete examples, in terms of investment readiness, as I mentioned, we're working with the Yarmouth International Airport. We recently attended a conference. It was on September 10th and 11th. It was Altitudes East, an aviation conference held in Halifax. And the goal was to assess the level of interest for reestablishing passenger service in the area. So all the major airlines were there, so we had an opportunity to meet with them, sit face-to-face, and discuss that potential. So the next step is really to look at the business case for the area and see how to move forward from there. And when we approach these types of issues, whether it be the airport, whether it be looking at the internet accessibility in the region, we want to approach with, okay, what work has already been done, because it's important for us to stand on that work as well. So again, using the airport as an example, we're working at pulling together a quick chronological synopsis of the work that's been done to date, and then building on that for the business case as well, so that work is not lost. And another method that we'll use for the investment readiness are roundtables. And those roundtables are really going to be made up of private sector individuals, but also government representatives as well, but used to identify issues or maximize opportunities that are shared. And it could be within different sectors as well. And those round tables, we can approach them on an industry level or on an issue-based level as well. And again, for an example, I give you the example of the shortage of low-skilled labor. That's something that we're hearing over and over again. I imagine you may hear that as well, that especially in the processing sector, that there is a shortage of low-skilled labor. So that would be an example of a way that we would approach that, or the rural internet issue. And then our last strategic theme, innovative partnerships and communications. This is probably the hardest theme to measure the impact of, but potentially the one that does have the most impact. So it's the people part of it, making sure that we're mobilizing, energizing the local talent skills, and also doing that in a positive manner. But yet again, standing on that solid information, looking at issues with clear eyes. So I mentioned the private sector tables. Also, our website is going to be a powerful tool for the region. The website is about the region. It's not about just our organization. And we are working on a land asset database, which would be a GIS mapping tool. So with that tool, we'd like to include industrial, commercial, different properties in the area. And that would be displayed you would have some basic information, an image, and then a link that would provide you to greater detail on the land. So turning around the provincial economy, as you know, it's a large task that cannot be done in isolation. So we, of course, are working with all the community partners and the resources that we do have. And again, that's really a key area or a key focus for us, is making sure that we're working with those assets and that we're leveraging them as much as possible. So my call to action to you today would be to refer some of the businesses in your ridings for a BRIE visit, especially the businesses who have employees in some of the key sectors, the larger sectors. So Gilles Babin is our BRIE coordinator. His email is gbabin, B-A-B-I-N, @westernren.ca. All the information will be on our website, which I'll provide in a minute. Also, if you're interested in signing up for updates, we will be reporting back to you via the Liaison and Oversight Committee. So I spoke to Mayor Mood, and in ways of reporting, we can report back to you via Mayor Mood on a bi-monthly basis to keep you up to date on what's going on in the region. But if you have a specific area of interest or expertise and you can be a resource for us, please contact us either via email or give me a call. And also our social media, we find that we have a lot of reach via social media. We have a Facebook and we have a Twitter, so if you can like and follow us via those mediums as well. And again, it all comes back to the partners in the region. And then there's our Facebook and our Twitter handle. So I'd like to give you the opportunity now. I think we have some time for some questions.
Thank you very much, Angelique. Any comments or questions, thoughts, concerns? Phil.
Yeah, it's great, and I like the geographics in it, because if it's good for Shelburne County or Argyle, it's good for Yarmouth, right? Because we're the natural geographic center of, even though we're on this end of it, I think we're still the financial and educational center of the Wren. How do we, and Ron's here and Warner's here, what are we doing about how we got in trouble with the Southwest Shore Development Authority, is how do we do a report card on you know, your activities, your direction, like that? I think that was probably the most important part when you set up the new Wren, is how do you report progress?
Yeah, and that's an important point as well, because when the previous model was re-examined, and then they came out with the, and I say they, and I'm talking about the RDA review panel, when they came out with the regional enterprise network model, accountability was really built into that. That was very important. So transparency, and that's why the model itself, we do have a board of directors, and then we have the Liaison and Oversight Committee. And the Liaison and Oversight Committee, that's where the municipal funders and the provincial funders sit. So we are accountable to the Liaison and Oversight Committee. In terms of auditing, we had an audit for our first 6 months of operations, because this is our second fiscal year, I guess. So last fiscal year was only 6 months. So we have gone through the audit process that has been presented to the Liaison and Oversight Committee. And I do report back to the L&O Committee. And then in terms of metrics and how we're going to be measuring our performance, we are still in discussions with the province, because, as you know, economic, rural development, and tourism, we were under that department, and they're no longer there. So municipal affairs is where we are now. So that's what they're working on currently, is a solid measurement tool as well, to look at performance.
Yeah, and I like the part, Angelique, when you said engaging the existing businesses again. I think that's where it is I think gone are the days where you're going to drop in a 1,500-person manufacturing plant here in Western Nova Scotia or anywhere else in Nova Scotia, right? Because the economy has changed, and those are looking more like the Philippines, India, Mexico. But I think where the opportunity for growth is engaging the existing businesses and getting value added, right? So you get a business that's got 20, maybe get them to 25. You get somebody that's got 50, get them to 60. If those businesses are already established, they already know the business network in southwestern Nova Scotia, and hopefully with the Ivany report and the Nova Scotia One is get beyond our borders and really explore the opportunities that are out there on a global scale.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Phil. Ken.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple of comments, and help me out with this. I'm being old and senile and not knowing what I'm doing. Now, I read somewhere that you've hired a communications person. And I'm curious about that because one thing you did mention your Facebook site, and I'm looking at it right now, and you have 110 likes on it. That's something that I would suggest, don't mind me saying so, and I hope that Warner and the other gentleman, I'm not sure who, gets mad at me, but that's one area. Social media is huge, and I'm a little surprised that we have such a low number of likes there. I think with a lot of action, I think we could, I mean, Mayor Mood alone has over 3,000 people in her Facebook, and I think it's something that's a major effort that we should be looking at. I'm just being one of the ones that asked for this meeting, and I think my concern is I'm still, and I apologize, I may not be the smartest bulb in the socket here, I'm still confused as to what a REN does. So, and this is what I got out of your presentation today, and just help me out, because this is I've been asked this by several people. So from what I'm seeing is the REN is basically a clearinghouse. So what I'm saying is that the main thing you were stressing was the BRE project, which will come in and will help existing businesses. And other than that, you basically connect people to where they need to be connected. So if I'm a businessman coming into Southwest Nova and I want to set up a widget plant in Shelburne, they contact you, you put them in contact with whoever they need to contact, and they live happily ever after. Is that basically how it works? I'm just want to see what the steps are.
Yeah, and that's a good question, absolutely. And yes, firstly, the BRE is something that is, as I mentioned, that's probably our key focus, our main focus. And then for the actual handling of opportunities, that is something that not only, depending on the situation, we could be leading or quarterbacking, if you will, the opportunity. But if it's more appropriate to hand it off to, let's say, Natalie within the town, depending on the issue, we would do that as well. So part of the process and the work that we want to do is clearly determine who's doing what, because the more effectively we can do that, the more of an impact the more of an impact that we can actually have. So that's an important part of what we're doing. So sometimes it's providing some resources that are not currently there in order to push an opportunity forward, and often it's driving that opportunity as well, because again, we have limited resources within the communities, but if you look at it from a regional perspective, you have a lot more weight there. And just, if I could just comment on the Facebook as well, just communications. In terms of staffing, we do have 3 economic development officers who each have a specific lead. So we have a BRE lead, we have a communications lead, and we have a research lead. But they really do work very closely together, because it's the big picture, and making sure that when you talk about economic development, that you've done your homework, you know what you're talking about, you go into your planning, and then you go into your action. But also it's really important to communicate what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, and base it on really sound information. So for the Facebook, we launched it a few months back, so that's why I put the call of action out there as well. The more you can help us share that, I think the more likes and shares that we can have. And as we ramp up, because we are still in we had 18 months to scale up our operations. I think we're probably ahead of the game in terms of doing that. So as we scale up, we are also operational. So as we move forward, we're going to be able to work on some more tangible projects as well, depending on some of the issues that are going to come up from the work that we're doing.
Thank you. Second question, Deputy Mayor, and you may have heard this. I had the opportunity over the last 3 or 4 months to meet with 2 very significant investors who are looking at Yarmouth for a significant investment. The comment that was made by both of them, one of them I could take in isolation, but when I have 2 of them make the comment, and I did share these with our CAO in confidence, it concerned me. They said that, quote, we don't like working with NSBI. We have nothing to do with NSBI, and they're very mistrusting of municipal government, especially not, they didn't specifically mention the Wren, in light of the SWASDA meltdown. Are you hearing things like this, and how can we, us, the world, repair that, what I would see as a lack of confidence? They're still proceeding with their projects slowly, but on the other hand, they have a great reluctance because they just don't trust, and don't take this personally, people like you guys, or even Natalie for that matter, because they're so worried that A, their information is going to get out there, or B, NSBI may grab it for Halifax, and I've heard that comment before, or other areas, and they've got specific projects, and I'm wondering how can we build this, I would call it customer confidence up, so that we can say, hey, we are nice people, we really don't do that sort of thing anymore, and I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, and I would say that I'm not surprised by the comment because, and that was something that was outlined in the Ivany report as well, it's that attitudinal change, and I am faced like that, and I've worked a number of years in organizations that kind of bridge the gap between private and public sector, and that is something that we constantly have to address, and I would say that it comes back to one of those things that I said in terms of our strategic focus around communications and innovative partnerships. It comes back down to relationships that you have with individuals, and you don't start working with a client on day one and expect that you're going to have that level of confidence. It's a relationship that does take time. So again, being a new organization, that's something that we're going to have to build. But I would say that we do have some relationships with the staff that we do have, relationships that we've already built that we are bringing with us as well. So that really helps us to start on a firmer footing. But that's definitely something that needs to be overcome. And I would say that, you know, we all have a role to play in kind of countering that kind of mindset.
Thank you very much, Angelique. Are we all comfortable with the presentation at this point? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, much appreciated. Moving on in our agenda, under business and 7A, we're asked.
I rise on a point of order, and just in reflection and just thinking, and I should have done this at the beginning, and I apologize. Can we look at construction of agendas that when we have presentations such as Angelique just did, that maybe we could move them up the agenda before the reports? And because, I mean, we still have all our staff here at the meeting, but Angelique and her team probably had better things to do than to listen to those reports for an hour or so. And Councillor disagrees. I know he wanted to torture the poor thing. But I'm wondering if we could maybe look at that in the future if we have a guest coming in. Okay, now I'd like to make a motion that when we have presentations to a committee of the whole, that guest presenters be moved up in the agenda to a timely, appropriate place. And if there's a second, I'll explain why I'm being vague in that. And the reason I'm being vague is that staff may have some issue that they may want to see addressed right at the beginning, and that gives staff that flexibility to do that. But the intention is there to get people like Angelique in and out of here in a timely fashion so they can get on with their lives.
Thank you. Phil, your light is still on. Did you?
No, I'm waiting for the next one. I'm just getting in line, man. Yes, I know.
Question being called. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Next item, there's a refugee support group. Is that the one you're interested in?
That's the one I'm interested. Yeah, I made the motion that council consider providing $5,000 towards the Yarmouth Refugee Support Group, but from what I understand, their funding has met its target. I think maybe I'd like to table this, and maybe we can send the Refugee Support Group a letter that outlines our grants to organizations process, and maybe they can come in January and make a presentation to us for some additional funding as they see fit. Want me to go over all? How's that, Dan? That sounds good. You like that? Yeah. No, I'm the one that made the original motion, but in light, I believe they've met their funding requirements for this one, and maybe just send them. Here we are in September, October. Our grants organizations come up in January. Send them all the information on our grants organizations. They want to come in and make a presentation. If we do that again this year, or send in a request, I think it covers all the bases.
Are you amending your motion then?
I will.
I'll second. If you amend, then yes, I'll second it.
Yeah, I'll withdraw the.
We didn't, the motion wasn't made anyway. So
There's no motion made, so I'll just make a motion that we send information to the Yarmouth Refugee Support Group, regarding grants to organizations.
Thanks, Phil. Second. All those in favor, please say aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Next item is the pumper rescue tender. John?
Did you want to read the recommendation? Because I don't have that documentation with me right now. I just know there's going to be questions.
I have a question after it's gone. So.
Well, I'd like to make a motion, get this on the floor, that council accept the bid from Port Garry Fire Trucks to supply the pumper rescue for the amount of $418,189 plus appropriate taxes, which will get
Is there any more? Does staff or have any comments or questions at this point? Get her done. Okay, I think I'm hearing get her done then. So, question, all those in favor?
No, I have a question.
Sorry, Danny.
I'm rattling my chains. For you, Chief, when this was being developed, I don't know if, did your staff or your senior volunteers have any input to this specific fire truck?
Yes, they did. Originally, this was tendered before.
Yes.
And the tender went out, and the chief officers looked at it. There was a number of things that they wanted to see on it. The general membership, it was brought to them. It was put up on the board, and the truck was showed to them.
Good.
They wanted a lot into it,
yeah.
And that's why there were a number of issues with the first tender. Although it's the same tender, I just changed it, tweaked it a bit, and sent it out again. So it's just a retender of what we had before.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that there was more than just yourself. I'm glad there were senior staff and your senior firefighters that had input. So that's great. Looking forward to seeing it, and I hope you don't have to use it too many times.
Yeah, really.
Great job. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Danny. Ken.
Thank you, Your Worship, or Deputy Worship. Just two questions, Chief. I see where it says meets specs most. That means that it doesn't meet some of the specs?
Yes, there was all three bidders. When you looked at the specs, there was one part in that. Since we didn't go with a custom body, we went with a manufactured one that was already manufactured, a standard one. And because of that, there was one warranty part that they couldn't meet. None of them actually could meet it. So, in saying that, the bidder that I'm recommending actually could go beyond that, what we said in our specs in some aspects, like the paint, the body, the rust, things like this. They actually are going up for a 20-year instead of a 10-year for us, so that's even better.
Timeline for delivery?
That's just it. I'd have to sit down with them, go over the contract now, and then come up with a timeline, but we do want it before next September. We want it before then.
Your Worship, Deputy Worship, could I make a recommendation that we have a special council meeting after this meeting to get this thing approved instead of waiting until October? Then we can get John moving on it right away instead of delaying it for 2 weeks, because we're going to approve it anyway, so maybe we'll just have a special council meeting right after. Is that okay?
So we can handle that. Thank you very much. All those in favor of accepting the Fort Garry bid, please say aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought it was seconded over there. Now is event volunteer recognition.
Your Worship, at I think it was the most recent council meeting, there was a motion made concerning staff looking at doing some sort of event for volunteer recognition event for all those volunteers that give their time to hosting events which involve visitors to our community, just really in recognition of what that means to our hospitality tourism industry. And I was contacted quickly by our Director of Director of Recreation, who suggested that we incorporate this within our volunteer recognition event that we do during National Volunteer Week every year. And he did point out that there is no requirement, no limit to who can make nominations and where they're from. And I thought that rather than creating a second event, that we maybe build that event and bring more of those volunteers forward, perhaps through nominations from councillors yourselves. Those people who you might pick one event per year and say, look, all of your volunteers, we'd like to nominate them all and bring them and highlight their event during that week. They do make a significant impact on our community, as do all of our volunteers. And I think bringing those volunteers in with the others and sharing the event might be the way to go.
Thank you, Jeff. Ken.
I agree. I think that's a great way. If Frank will agree to do that, that would be wonderful. Lately, the volunteer recognition has been going very well with the town and the county, so there's no reason why it couldn't be. But as long as the word can get out there for these other organizations that because people will often see the volunteer recognition as like Knights of Columbus, Lions Club, schools, stuff like that. They may get that mind twisted around. That does include things like Seafest and Coal Shed and that sort of thing. Perfect.
Make a motion to accept the recommendation.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, Deputy Mayor, that we accept the recommendation that Council proactively nominate, that we simply hold this in conjunction with Volunteer Recognition Week through Leisure Services.
Moved and seconded. Everyone happy with that discussion, presentation? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. The Mariners, get my agenda here. Mariner Center Expansion Project, feasibility study. Jeff.
Thank you. As Council's aware, Mariner Center led a needs assessment process that was recently wrapped up. That was actually at the request of our council, that they look at future needs in the community and future build out of that property. So that part of the process was finished. The next step is to do a feasibility study. They have requested that we begin the first phase of the feasibility study that would have a price tag of $25,000 to get that rolling. Our share of the $25,000 would be half at this point, and then there will be a second phase that will be approximately $50,000, and there's a possibility of provincial money as well as potentially a COA money to assist with phase 2. Because they feel this is a time-sensitive issue, they'd like to move it along because they've identified some partnerships potential with the YMCA, with the curling club. They're asking for councils, the two owners, to support beginning phase 1.
Danny.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So Jeff, they're looking for a motion for this, and we're going into a council meeting after. Is it probably appropriate to make a motion to make this happen at this council meeting, the committee of the whole, then the council meeting?
Jeff?
If you're comfortable with that, yeah, I know that this process was requested by this council and the needs
That's why I'm
assessment was
asking.
done. So if you're
Yeah.
comfortable with proceeding in this fashion, then you certainly could do that.
I'll ask you the question. Are you comfortable with this also? We seem to, was in agreement that we want to see what the facility is capable of doing and having out there, so it's either now or postpone it, and I'm not into postponing it. And I think they've worked, this committee that they struck worked very hard in the meetings and everything that they had, so I'm prepared to make a motion that we accept the recommendation as presented here today on this paper.
Jeff?
Yeah, I don't have any issue with what's recommended here. I do think it's important that we try to engage ACOA and the province throughout the entire process and not just move ahead without them.
I agree.
And so this proposal does allow that. The other thing is I think they need to formalize a steering committee for the project. Right now, Rick Allwright is working closely with Gil, and there's some other people, but it is the board of directors of Mariner Center right now who is kind of leading, and I think they need a more inclusive steering committee to lead this project through, to make sure that
But in this motion, Jeff, it's no good for me to write a book on it and ask all this stuff, because in the managers, and not only that, but your capable hands, his capable hands, things I know will be looked after in the right
just let me
manner,
know where I am.
and
You asked the
financially
question,
in
so-
the taxpayers' favor. Thank you. That's my motion.
So the motion, we've moved by Danny. I know it's been seconded by Phil, I think.
Sorry, the only addition I would suggest that you add to your motion would be conditional upon the other partner agreeing to participate 50%.
Thank you, Jeff. I'll make that amendment if the seconder is okay with the seconder. So I so move.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. It's very important. 7E, motorized bicycles.
Yeah. Well, I didn't attach a written report on this one because I didn't have any material. I reached out to my colleagues through a listserv that I frequently use when the direction for council is find out what your colleagues are doing, and often get anywhere from a half a dozen to maybe 20 responses, depending on how exciting the topic is. I received one response to this one, and it was a sarcastic joke. So I took from the lack of response that the issue that we're experiencing with these bicycles is not universally shared throughout the province, and so maybe we are at the leading edge, or maybe we're just unique.
All right, Danny.
Well, you know, I took it upon myself some time ago to call the RCMP, the staff sergeant, and not only ask them about the motorized bikes, and that you don't need a license, you don't need insurance, you don't need anything. You know, they have to adhere to with by the you know, the road, the rights of the road. But also I asked them about the motorized wheelchairs, and they have the right to ride in the road also. They can ride in the road or ride on the sidewalk. It's their choice. So anyway, and I had a couple other questions, but I won't go into them. So if you were looking to see if it was legal or not, it is legal, but there is a limit into how big their engines is on their bikes. And the only way to find out that is that they would have to have perhaps volunteers come in with their bikes, I would presume, to bring them in and do a check to see if they're over the CCs, whatever it is. And I don't know how many would do that. Or they could stop each and every individual bike, which perhaps maybe they should. And if they haven't got the expertise to do it, perhaps they should think about getting it. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening with motorized vehicles, motorcycles, cars, and the works. I mean, there's cars that go up and down Main Street, Water Street, It's just unbelievable, the amount of noise that they make. If you live down where I live at night, you swear to God it was a drag strip down by the treatment plant up. They drag race from the treatment plant all the way up to the ferry terminal. If you don't believe me, go down and look at the tire marks all down there. And it's just unbelievable that what goes on down there at nights and stuff. And the noise. The noise is just unbelievable. They must have straight pipes go through. So I think what it is, not only with the bikes, but there's a lot of things that are getting out of hand, and somebody's got to have the expertise to kind of take these in and start doing one at a time to fix the problems, because there is problems. There are definitely problems. I mean, walking this morning and this afternoon, cars that go down Main Street and Water Street, my goodness. They must be doing 70 or 80 miles an hour, not kilometers, miles an hour. Just unbelievable, really unbelievable. But anyway, I'm just a little bit off topic, but it is a fact. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Danny, I was looking at your red light flashing. So my apologies, Danny. Ken, please.
He's healthier than I am right now. Anyway, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just further to that as well, this came out of the Police Advisory Board, and I think the thought at the time was maybe look at some method of licensing of these things or regulations or whatever. In the good old days, we used to have taxi inspections on a regular basis. I don't know whether we're doing that or not, but considering that we have had one loss of life due to a motorized vehicle, one of these little bicycles, in the past, and some near misses in the present, it's something we really should keep on our radar. I'm not quite sure how we can deal with it, but I'll take it back to the Police Advisory Board and see what the Police Advisory Board recommends at our next meeting, and we'll go from there. Councillor Dawes is on with me, so we'll come up with something for council. Thank you.
That may be appropriate. Thank you, Ken. Under correspondence, so you have specifically a note from Vanessa Fells asking for financial support. What's the wish of council? Ken.
Well, I'm a little confused. She says in her note that she's been selected, which I think congratulations to her. Definitely we should acknowledge this. But she says, as I have to cover the cost of transportation to Geneva and some accommodations, I'm seeking financial assistance. But then I'm reading the letter, and the letter says, during the fellowship program, you will be entitled for the following: a return ticket economic class from country of residence to Geneva, basic health insurance, and 134 CHF, whatever a CHF is. I assume it's a Swiss franc. Is that so? What would that work out, Madeline, into dollars? So she gets about like $200, $300 a day for accommodations, you know. So I'm a little confused because unless I'm reading this letter wrong, and maybe I'll defer to the CAO, it seems that she is getting the transportation, and it seems that she is getting some accommodations. The request is really not clear to me, so I'm a little uncomfortable with it until that's clarified. I mean, I think it's wonderful she's going, and I commend her for being her selection, and at the very least, we should formally acknowledge that. But what she's asking for and what the letter is saying, there seems to be a discrepancy, and maybe I'm just the only one I'm not reading it correctly.
Madeline.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm excited for her. It gets a chance, it's a chance for Yarmouth to be acknowledged and taken halfway around the world. Unfortunately, all good intentions start somewhere. Good. But I did not have the time to take her up on her offer in her letter to us. She wrote, if you wish to contact me, please call me at. She gave 2 telephone numbers. I also had a couple of questions that I knew that she could straighten out for me, but unfortunately I didn't have the time, didn't take the time, and so here we are. If council is comfortable with tabling this until the next meeting, if we want to go, if we want to inform ourselves I'm easy, I'm okay, so I'm going to leave it out on the table. I'm excited for her, but do we have the money? That's another question. I know that our budget has already been more than spoken for, and I know I'm stepping into this with both feet. I know I'm going to get it. It's coming back. I can feel it already. But as much as we want to help everyone, we can't, and if we do, then we open the door and the floodgates, the requests will just keep on coming. So Councillor Langell made a good point. It's not quite clear in her letter if we want to check on that. I'm happy with whatever. I agree with whatever council decides. Thank you.
Was that size 8 you were talking about, your feet?
Yeah, your deputy worship, my thinking would be is maybe it would be appropriate for staff, a quick email or a letter or a call to her just to clarify that concern, if that's possible, just to ask her specifically. I'd like to make a motion that the request from Vanessa Fells be deferred to our next committee meeting, to next committee of the whole, and pending staff clarifying the actual nature of the request because of the, shall we say, contrast between the letter and the application.
Ken, second, thank you. Through the town of Yarmouth, it's happening next week, Ken. So, yeah. All those in favor of the motion? Yeah. Okay, contrary minded, motion carried. Sorry.
That's okay. So we're going to have staff look at it. That's great. We don't have another committee of the whole till she's down there and back.
Jeff just indicated that he's going to email her right now.
You're going to email her right now? Okay, so how much is she looking for? Do we have the money? And are we setting a precedence here where we're taking these applications, these requests? I mean, because usually with these requests, we don't usually, we either say yes to all of them, or we handpick the ones we want to pick. I'm not really in favor of that, really, to be honest. I'm glad that she got picked, and I'm glad to see that she is getting compensated from the United Nations. She's getting whatever she's getting, a couple $100 a day. And it's always nice to have a few extra dollars, and it's always nice to have your hometowns to support you, or family support you, either or. So, but, we have a lot of requests coming here, folks. And if we're going to start doing this for one, you want to be prepared. I would think you want to start doing them for all, because it's unfair for not to, entertain doing them for other people. So we got to be careful here. We all agreed before that when our funds ran out, they ran out. We don't have any more. So if you're looking to change things, then you better, we should have, I've been asked to get a policy on this. Perhaps we should look at it sometime and in the near future, because we don't have funding for it. We really don't.
Thank you, Danny. Jeff, your light's on.
Okay, there were 3 questions there, and the answers are, I don't know, no, and yes. No, what was the money for? Of course, we don't know that. Do we have the money? We have exhausted the grants portion of your budget, and would you be setting a precedent? Yes.
Thank you. So we're approaching the end of part of the agenda. Are there any under correspondence, any other questions or discussion? Oh.
Not quite yet. Deputy Worship, just drawing attention to the copy of the letter that's been given to us from Karen Mattatall, the Mayor of Shelburne, with regard to the sinking of the Farley Mowat in Shelburne Harbor. I just would like to suggest that we respond to her, and that we really should watch this very carefully, because that does have some implications for Yarmouth. So I'd like to make a motion that staff be directed to set up regular correspondence, maybe even with the CAO in Shelburne, to keep in the loop as to what's going on there, because where we have got a harbor that is phenomenally small, in comparison, something like this would be devastating for us, especially with the ferry service and fishing community. So my motion is that we get in contact, that our staff get in contact with the CAO of Shelburne to ask them to please keep us in the loop in those discussions with Transport Canada and the province of Nova Scotia regarding the danger of vessels sinking within a navigational harbor.
Someone want to second that? Everybody happy with Ken's motion at this point? Any more comments or questions? Okay, question being called. All those in favor, please say aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. So are we moving for adjournment at this point? Moving, okay, adjournment of this meeting to go into camera?
Let's adjourn here.
Yeah. 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 All right. So now we're going to go into water utility.
This won't take long. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Call the meeting to order. This meeting of the Yarmouth Water Utility. Declarations of conflict of interest. Do we have any? Nope. Approval of the agenda. You see the agenda before you. We have 2 items. Is there any additions or deletions? Could we have a motion to approve the agenda? It's been moved by Councillor Dennis and seconded by Councillor McIsaac. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Contrary? The first item on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is the tender for the Millstone Terrace water main replacement. That is online. Dave or Jeff, do you wish to comment on these?
It was tendered and advertised in the local paper as well as on the town's website, provincial procurement site, with 2 responses being received, one from Gary Construction, the other from Dexter Construction. The tendered prices are shown, the lowest being from Gary Construction in the amount of $399,438.58 plus HST, which includes a contingency allowance of $40,000 for unforeseen conditions, which have to be approved prior to spending. This pricing also includes complete reconstruction of the asphalt roadway, including granular base. The above is for council's information approval, or water utility, I should say.
Can we have a motion to accept the recommendation?
So moved.
Moved by Deputy Mayor McLeod. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay. Councillor McIsaac, you have a question.
Sorry, my apologies.
That's okay, Jim. I don't know, maybe I'm not reading this right. Garen's construction is $359, $438.58, and he's added in the $40,000, right?
Yep.
Okay, so this guy here, perhaps I'm reading it wrong again. 67. No, I see it. Okay, good. Yeah. Yep.
Any further questions for the engineer staff? Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. The second item is from our engineer, and this is the tenders for the district flow meters. Again, Dave or Jeff, if you wish to comment on this one, please.
We tendered this as well through the same media and received 2 responses back. This is for tying or integrating district flow meters into our water utility SCADA system. We received responses from Filtrum Construction and Graves Electrical, as indicated in the amounts shown. The lowest being from Filtrum construction in the amount of $107,360 plus HST. After I reviewed the tenders for compliance and checking with our consultant, who advised me that they had been involved with this firm on other projects and had not had any issues with them. As well, they have an office located in the Halifax area. It's recommended that we accept the tender from the lowest tenderer, Filtrum Construction, in the amount of $107,360 plus tax.
I so move.
Moved by Councillor McIsaac. Engineer. Yep. Do we have a seconder to that motion? And that's, I think the motion should properly read that we give it to Filtrum Construction in the amount of $107,360 plus HST. And that's moved by the and seconded. Any further questions? Questions has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Any further business for the water utility? Hearing none, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
So now we should call that special meeting of council and deal with the fire truck. We call for Fort Garry. All those having heard the discussion earlier and the motion now, over the question, all those in favor please say aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. And the mayor, also the Mariner Center, they report on the Mariner Center. Yep.
I move that we accept the recommendation of the manager at the Mariner Center for the feasibility study, $25,000, on the condition that our other partner agrees to put in the other 12.5, I think it is. That's my motion.
Seconded.
That's appropriate, Jeff. It's complete. Okay. We have mover and seconder. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you very much, everybody. A motion for adjournment.
One more. You got.
Yeah.
Do we? Do you have another? What about this one here? You're not doing that one for the flow meters and that?
Water utility is
Water utility. Okay, great.